Welcome you all back to our YouTube channel Science is Life. In today's video we hope to discuss about arrays in C programming. So today we are going to explain you each and everything that you need to know about arrays. So let's get started. As you know, arrays are very important in programming. So let's see what are these arrays and why we use these arrays. Arrays can be used to store collection of data, right? So the type of those data may be primitive or derived. If you don't know what are these primitive data types and derived data types, you can see my video about data types. I'll attach the link in the description bar. And so we know primitive data types are int, float, double, char. Likewise there are several data types in C. And what are the derived data types? Derived data types are structures and pointers. Few examples, right? So you can create array from primitive data types like integer, float, double, or as well you can create arrays from structures and pointers also. If you don't know what are these structures and pointers, I'll do separate videos for structures and pointers, so don't worry. So we can say that arrays are collection of variables of the same data type. Why we can say this? Let's see. Arrays represent many instances in one variable. Why we can say this? If we create variables one by one, let's assume that we need to have 5 variables from integer data type. So what we have to do, we have to declare each and every variable one by one, like this. Here I have created num1 and assign 5 into this variable, right? So again I have created num2 variable from integer data type and I have assigned value 12 into this variable. Likewise I have created 5 variables here from same data type, which is integer, right? So it will looks like this, right? There may be a variable, separated variable, its name is num1 and value of this variable is 5. There may be there is another variable called num2 and value is 12. Likewise there are separate variables like this. But if we need to create hundreds of variables, is it easy to do like this, creating each and every variable one by one? No, it is really hard thing to do. So in a case like this we can use arrays, right? So if we need to create 5 variables, then we can have an array which size is 5, right? So our data type of the array is integer and my array name is num and my array size is 5. So I can assign these 5 values into this array, right? So it will look like this, right? So I'll explain you these things later in detail. For now, get the idea of why we use arrays rather than using separate variables. We can use a single variable to give a reference for all these 5 values, right? That is why we can say that it represents many instances in one variable. Now you can see here we used 5 instances, but here we have used single variable to represent 5 instances, right? So what are the advantages of these arrays? We can random access of elements using array index. You will learn the index later, but keep in mind that it is very easy to access each and every elements of this array, right? And also it do the code optimization, right? So to create a single array of multiple elements, then it optimize our code into very few lines, right? And it is easy to access all the elements. As well, ease of traversing. Using a loop like a for loop, we can easily traverse each and every element of this array. And easy of sorting, as it can be accomplished by writing less line of codes. And there is a disadvantage as well, because it is fixed size element, right? We should define at the time we declare the array the size of that array, right? At the moment we create the array, we need to specify what is the size of our array. So it is a disadvantage. Let's see what are the indices of an array. I told you in a previous slide that we use index to access each and every elements of this array, right? So if this is our array, I'll explain you how to declare array later, right? So for now, assume that this is our array, right? Somehow we have created an array which data type is integer and which size is 5, right? And it has 5 elements. So then we can represent array like this, right? So in the first element, what is our first element? It is 5. Second element is 12. Third element is 10. Likewise, we have 5 elements in this array, right? So what are the indices? Index we begin from 0. Index begin from 0 and increment by 1 by 1, right? So the element of 5, the index of element 5 is 0. Index of element 12 is 1. Likewise, each and every element has a single index, right? So what is the size of this array? We know there are 5 elements, right? So my array size is what? It is 5. But what is the maximum index of my array? We are beginning in indexes, we are beginning from 0 and it will increment 1 by 1, right? So index of element 5 is 0. Index of element 12 is 1. Index of element 10 is 2. Likewise, each and every element has a single index, right? So we know there is an array size, right? Here, what is the array size of this array? We have 5 elements, right? So my array size is 5. My array size is 5 because I have 5 elements. And what is the maximum index of this array? It is 4, right? Why it is 4? Because we start from 0, right? So it start from 0. If my array size is 5, my maximum index is 4, right? We should, if we want to find the maximum index of an array, we need to subtract 1 from array size, right? So we know how the indexes are represented in an array, right? So here we can see that my array name is what? It is num. My array name is num. So what are the each and every these elements names? We learned that an array represent many instances in a single variable, right? So here my variable is num5, right? My array is num, but what are the instances? These are the instances. So 5 can be called as like this, with using index and the name of my array. I can call this variable as num within square brackets 0. if I want to assign any value into this, I need to use this num within square brackets 0, and I can access 12 by this variable name num within square brackets 1. Likewise, I can access each and every element by using the array name and within square brackets the particular index, right? So that is how we access elements of an array. Now let's see how array is declared. So first we know that it represents single data type. It represents many instances from a single data type, right? So we need to have a data type. So first we mention what is the data type of our array. Then we need to mention the name of our array. After that we need to open square brackets, and within this we need to specify what is the array size, right? So I told you that it is an disadvantage, right? Because at the moment we declare array, we need to know the size of array, right? So that is how we declare array. So I told you that we can declare arrays using primitive data types as well derived data types, right? So first let's see how we can declare arrays using primitive data types. What are the primitive data types? We know integer, float, double, char are primitive data types, right? So first let's take an example from integer. So I'll create an array. Now you know how to declare an array, right? So first what we need to do, we need to specify the data type of our array. Then we need to give a meaningful name for our array. So I have given it as marks. My array name is marks, and I need to have 5. I want to make my array size as 5, right? So I can store 5 elements in this array, right? If I give my array size as 5, then I know that I can store 5 elements in this array, right? So how this array will be created? Did I assign any value into this array? Not yet. I haven't assigned any value into this array, so my array is an empty array, right? But I have given a reference for this array, right? So there will be a separate space allocated in the array, in the memory, right? So there will be a array called marks, and there will be separate spaces for each and every element. I want to store 5 elements in this array, no? So there will be 5 spaces separately for each and every element that I am hoping to store in future, right? So there will be a memory address for each and every space. And how much is this space? It is 4 bytes in space. There will be 4 bytes will be allocated for my index 0, and 4 bytes space will be allocated for index 1. Likewise, there will be 5 different spaces for each element that I am hoping to store in future, and all these separate locations will have a unique memory address, right? Each and every these elements will have, the memory locations for these elements will have 5 different unique memory addresses, and their spaces will be 4 bytes, right? So then let's see, I told you that we can create arrays using primitive data types as well using derived data types, right? So in the previous example we talk about primitive data types. So we created the array using integer data type, right? So here we are going to create an array using structures, right? If you don't know structures, don't worry, I will do a separate video for structures, pointers in detail. So if you know structures, then I will a little bit explain you how to create an array using structures, right? So you know we can create a structure like this. How to create a structure? We can use struct keyword, and this is the name of my structure, right? My name of the structure is student, and I hope to declare two variables there. The first one is I want to save the name of these students as string, right? So I am creating a char array, right? So my name is char array, and I hope to store age in integers. So I am declaring a variable called age, which data type is integer, right? So my student structure has name array and integer age, right? So you know using structure, if you want to create an object from this structure, at the moment you declare, you can mention it here after the curly brackets. You can mention what is the object that you are going to create, right? So usually we use S1 or something else, but here we are going to create an array, right? So no difference. It is very simple. The additional thing we need to add is this square brackets. By mentioning square brackets, we can implement it as a, declare it as a array, right? So I hope to create an array from this structure with size of 5, right? So I am giving my array name as S1, and I am hoping to have 5 elements in this array. So this is how I declare this array. So how it will looks like? So we can say it will look like this, right? So usually an array have 5. If it is a normal array, it has 5 locations to save 5 elements, right? So as like it, here also we are having 5 spaces for 5 elements, right? So we begin the index from 0 up to 4, right? Then each and every location will carry these two variables. So what are the variables? Name and age. So each element will carry these variables. So index 0 element will carry name, age. Index 1 element will carry name, age. Likewise, each and every element will carry these two variables, right? So how can we call the first element? We know we can call it by the array name and the index, right? So what is the name of my array? It is S1. So I can call my first element as S1 index 0. Within the square brackets I can mention 0, so that means it is my first element, right? Likewise, I can say S11 index 1 to my second element. So here I haven't mentioned S1. This should be S1, right? So here this element is S1 index 2, right? Here it is S1 index 3. Likewise, I can access each and every elements, but how can I access the variables of each element? It is also easy. We know what is the name of my element, and by putting a period mark or a dot mark, I can access the variable like this. So what is my element name? It is S10. Then what is the variable that I am going to use? It is name. So I can put a dot and mention my variable name as name, right? Likewise, I can access S10 dot age for my first element's age. Likewise, each and every element's variables I can access, right? So I think you got an idea how to create arrays from structures, right? Then I told you that we can declare arrays using pointers as well, because pointers are also derived data types, right? So we can create arrays using pointers. So you know, if you don't know, don't worry, I'll do a separate video, right? So how to create a pointer? We mention the asterisk mark, right? We mention the star mark. We can mention this star mark near the pointer, I mean the name of my pointer, or if you want you can mention that star near your data type, or you can mention it between these two data type and name, like this, right? As you wish. You can use any method of these 4 methods, right? Then you can create a pointer. Then you can assign an array into this pointer, right? So that is how we can declare arrays, right? So let's see how to initialize these arrays. So you can assign values into an array at the moment you are creating the array, or if you want you can assign values into the array later. You can first you can declare an array and you can keep it as it is, and later you can assign values into this array, right? So this is the first method. If you want to assign values at the moment you are going to declare, then it will we should do it like this, right? As you know how to declare an array, so now you know you need to mention the data type and the name and the array size within the square brackets, and we ended it up with a semicolon to declare, right? But if you want to assign values at this moment, then you can use the equal mark, and within curly brackets you should mention what are the elements, what are the values that you are going to assign into this array, right? So if you can use the array size, or I mean you can say that this is the size of array that I am going to use, or you can do it like this. You can ignore the size, right? You can without mentioning the array size, you can assign elements into this array, right? Then let's think that you assigned 4 elements without saying my array size. Then what will happen? It will automatically make the array size as 4, right? Because I have added 4 elements at the moment I created my array. So then the compiler will automatically make this array size as 4, right? So let's see. You can see here I have assigned 4 values into my array, right? What is the size of my array? It is 5, but I have assigned only 4 elements. Then what will happen? In my memory, in my computer's memory, there will be 5 different locations for each and every elements that I am going to store in future. But now I am assigning 4 values. There is another remaining space there, right? So the computer's memory, there will be 4 values assigned, and the remaining space it will automatically stores it as 0, right? Then I told you that I can create an array without using the size, but if you don't use the size, then you should assign what are the elements that you are going to assign, right? So here I am not saying that my array size, but I am assigning 4 elements. So computer thinks that, right, So the array should be in size 4, right? So it will create 4 size array and it will assign these 4 elements, right? Then I told you that we can assign values after declaring an array later, right? So let's see how we can do this. So here, this is how we can assign values at the moment we declare the array, right? So here I have assigned 4 values into this array, right? Age array, I have assigned 4 values, so I can add values after that, right? So what are the indexes of these elements? So here it is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So I can assign into index 4, right? So how can I write it? I need to mention the name of my array, it is age, and I need to mention where should I assign this value. So what is the index of that I am going to store? It is 4, right? So I am going to store in an array age where index 4, right? So I am going to assign 8 there, right? So this is how I can assign values by using indexes. Likewise I can do for these arrays also, right? These arrays also. So here I have created marks array. So here also I have assigned 4 values. Then that means the maximum index is 3, right? So I can assign index 4, some value into the index 4, right? But I told you that we can use char arrays in C, right? So we use char arrays to store strings, right? But we can't assign values later for these char arrays, right? That is a necessary thing that you need to keep in mind, right? Now we know how to deal with one-dimensional arrays, right? So let's learn how to deal with multi-dimensional arrays and why we use these multi-dimensional arrays, so on. So first let's learn how to create two-dimensional arrays. So when we create one-dimensional arrays, we used one square bracket, and within that square bracket we mention the size of the array, right? So how to create two-dimensional arrays? There we need to use two squares. If we are going to create two-dimensional array, then we need to mention two square brackets, and within these two square brackets we need to mention what are the sizes of each, right? So here I have created a two-dimensional array with integer data type, and I have named it as marks, right? So we can represent these two-dimensional arrays in a table, right? So if we represent this two-dimensional array in a table, it will look like this, right? So there are rows and columns in a table, right? So likewise here we can consider this first square bracket as number of rows and the second square bracket as number of columns, right? So if we consider the first one as number of rows, then we can say it is it will start from 0, index from 0, then it will be row 0, row 1, row 2, right? If we consider this as number of columns, then it will start from the index 0, then it will looks like column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3 likewise. Then we can say each and every element of this array has a unique name, right? So how many elements that we can store in this array? So I have mentioned that in the first square bracket 3 and the second square bracket 4, right? So that means I can store 12 elements in this array. How can we find out the number of elements we can store? We can simply multiply these two values. We can simply multiply 3 and 4, then it will give 3 into 4 is 12, right? So I can store 12 elements in this array. So each and every element has unique variable name. So what are these unique variable names? So what is the name of my array? It is marks, right? So what is the first element of my array? It is marks 0 0, right? If I consider the first square row as rows, then it will looks like this: row 0, column 0. If I, or you can consider this as columns and this as rows, right? So it is up to you. You can consider what is the thing that these square brackets represent, right? It will depend on your case. So it is up to you. You can consider that I am going to use this square bracket as this and this square bracket as like this, right? So here I have considered my first square bracket as number of rows and the second square bracket as number of columns, right? So let's see how to how we use these two-dimensional arrays. Let's see, there is an case like this. We need to store marks of 4 students for 3 different subjects, right? So we are having two cases. The first one is we need to have 4 different students, and also I have to have 3 different subjects, right? So there will be how many cases where there will be? There will be 12 cases, right? Because I have 4 students and 3 different subjects, then all the cases are 12. So each and every these case I need to store. So I need to have 2D array, right? So I am creating integer array named as marks, and I am using it like this. So I am considering that I represent this 3 for subject, right? This 4 for students, right? So that is up to you. You can swap these if you want. You can mention 4 before, then 3 later, right? No difference, but you need to keep in mind what is the thing that I am going to represent in the first square bracket, and what is the thing that I am going to represent in the second square bracket, right? That is a very important thing. So I am going to store like this. This is, so let's say I am going to store the student 0, subject 0, marks. So this is it. So what is the student 1, subject 0, mark? It is this. What is the student 1, subject 1, marks? It is this, right? So now I think you got the idea, right? So likewise you can use 3-dimensional arrays as well. So let's take an example where we can use 3-dimensional array, right? So let's assume that we need to store marks of 4 different students for 3 different subjects for 2 semesters. So I need to consider about 3 cases, and all the cases are how many cases? Then 3 into 4 is 12, 12 into 2 is 48, right? So there will be 48 cases that I need to store, right? So what should I use? I should use 3-dimensional array, and here I have created 3-dimensional array, and I hope to store the subject indexes in the first square bracket and the student indexes into the second square bracket, and the semester, I need to represent the semester by the third square bracket, right? So I can represent the 0, 1, 2 students from this square bracket, and the subject 0, 1, 2, 3 from the second square bracket, and the semester 0 and 1 from the third square bracket, right? So if we take an example like this, here I have mentioned marks 1 to 1. What is this? So what is the element that this variable name is representing? This represent what? In the first one it is student, right? So 1 mean we need to add 1, right? Because indexes are less than our number of elements. 1 is less than from the number of elements, right? So this 1 will represent the second student, right? This 2 will represent the third subject. This 1 will represent what? Second semester. So what is this variable name is representing? It is representing second student's third subject mark for semester 2, right? Okay, first let's learn how to create an array in code blocks, right? So I told you that first we need to mention what is the data type of our array, and then we need to mention what is the name of my array. Then I am going to declare the size of my array as 10, right? So likewise I can, like this, you can create an array from the integer data type, right? So I can assign values at the moment I created this array, like this. I can assign within the curly brackets, right? So I am going to assign 2 values like 1 and 5. These are the values that I am going to assign, right? So you know how to use for loops, right? We have learned how to use for loops. If you don't know how to use for loops, then see my video. I have mentioned the link in the description bar, right? So how to create a for loop? We can create a for loop like this. Then what can we do? We need to mention, we need to declare a variable. So I am going to declare a variable named as I, right? So I am going to represent my indexes of my array using this I, right? So where should I begin? I need to begin from 0 because my indexes are beginning from 0 no? So I need to start from 0. Then I am going to say like this: I should be less than 11. Why it should less than 11? Because yes, it should be less than 10, right? Why it should be less than 10? Because I am having 10 elements, but what is the maximum index of my array? It is 9, right? My array index, maximum index is 9, so I need to go up to 9, right? That is why I am saying that it should be less than 10. Then it should be increment by 1, right? So then what should I do? I need to print each and every element of my array, right? So that is the thing that I am going to do here. So I am printing array, let's say index, array index. Then I am going to print the number of my index, array index. So I am specifying format, specify array index element, right? This is what I am going to print. Then what should I do? I am saying that index. So what is the index? It is I, right? Then I should print the element. What is the element? What is the name of my array? It is marks, right? My array is marks. Then I am accessing each and every value of this array. Let's see. I have assigned only 2 elements, right? Let's see what will be the output. You can say there is all things have printed in a line. Why? Because I haven't mentioned new line character. So I'll mention the new line character. Then you can see, right? array index 0 element is 1, array index 1's element is 5, and the rest of elements, I mentioned the rest of elements? Did I assign the rest of elements? No. Then it has automatically taken it as what? 0, right? You can see it. Now let's assign another thing later. I am going to assign marks 3. Here I have mentioned 0 and 1, right? So I'll mention 2 first. 0 and 1 have I assigned, so I'll assign 8 it as index 2. Then let's run this code and see. You can see it has taken as the second index element, right? Let's put it as 3. Then you can see the second element is 0, but it has taken the third element as 8, right? Right. So now you know how to create an array and how to access each and every element from that array using a for loop. Then let's declare 2D array, right? Let's declare 2D array. So I am going to take the same example. So I am going to declare like this. What is the meaning of this array? So I am going to use, I'll mention 3 subjects and 4 students' marks, right? So I am going to represent by using this array, right? So here I have declared my array, right? Then I am going to assign few values into this. So I am going to assign few values. I'll assign marks 0 0. What is the meaning of this 0 0? It is student 0, subject 0 mark, right? So I am giving it as 52. Then I'll assign marks 2 1. What is the meaning of this? This is the 0 subject student 1 mark, right? So I am giving it as 87, right? So you can use a printf function if you want for each, but it is very so let's learn how to use for loops. So here we have 2D array, so how many for loops do we need? We need 2 for loops, right? Why we need 2 for loops? First for loop for the first index, first square bracket, and the second for loop for second square bracket. Then how will it works? Let's see how will it works. Let's take the first for loop like this, right? So what is the first I need to declare an array. I'll declare it as int j, right? So I am going to represent the first square brackets indexes using this j variable, right? So I need to start from where? I need to start from 0. Then what is the condition? This j should be less than what? What is the what are the number of elements of first square bracket? It is 3. So what is the maximum index? It is 2. So it should be less than 3. Then I should increment my j, right? So this represent my first square brackets. Then what should I do? I should take the second for loop within this for loop. Then I am going to represent my I to represent the indexes of second square bracket. So what is the maximum? It is 4, right? It should be like this. So why I use this for loop within a for loop? Why I use the inner for loop for doing this thing? Because you know, if there are, I told you there are 12 cases, right? So how will it come? It will first, the first square bracket will be 0, then there will be 4 cases for the first 0, right? So like this. So I told you j is the first one. So if the j is equal to 0, then we can take 4 cases when I will become 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, right? So if the j is equal to 0, then there will be 4 cases for not 4, right? There will be 4 cases for the I, right? Then there will be another case, like when the j is equal to 1, again there will be 4 cases, right? I will, when the I equal to 0 and 1 and 2 and 3, right? Like this. So likewise we will represent up to j equal to 3, right? That is how the 12 elements are coming, right? So that is why I need to use this for loop within this, because in the first for loop, when the j is equal to 0, I need to come up for the I values for 0, 1, 2 and 3, right? That is why I use this for loop within this for loop. Then I can print like this: array index d I need to, because I have 2 indexes right now, right? What are these 2 indexes? J and I. So what is the element? So I need to represent by the 2 square brackets. It is like this. This should be j, right? Let's run this code and see what will happen. I have only assigned 2 values, right? Let's see. Now you can see it is like this. Index 0, 0 element is 52. Index 0, 1 is 87 and 0, 2 is all are zeros, and here they have given the what is this, memory address or something. Likewise it will give the random values, because we have not assigned any values here, right? So that is how 2D arrays are working. So let's take an example for 3-dimensional arrays as well. So let's represent 2 semesters as well, right? So how to do? We need to add another square bracket as well. That is the only thing we need to do. So let's say this is the 0, 0, 0 index. Then what will happen? It should be jth, and then what should be happen? How we can represent it? Let's say it is like this. Then if the j is equal to 0 and if the I is equal to 0, then we need to take, let's say, another variable as k, right? Another variable for the third loop. Then let's say it is k. So it should be, now we are going to represent the semester by the variable k. So it should up to what? 0 and 1, right? 0 and 1. So if the j is equal to 0 and I is equal to 0, k should be 0 or 1. Then still our j is our j is 0, right? Then our what? I'll erase these things. Still our j is equal to 0, but my I is now what? My I is now 1, right? So if my I is 1, my I is 1, then k may be 0 or 1. Now can you see how these things happen? Then after all these cases, then I will increment and j will increment, right? So now you know we need to have another for loop, right? We need to have another for loop. Let's add the third for loop here. So I told you that I'm hoping to take a k variable to represent my semester. So k should be less than 2 and it should be increment by 1 by 1, right? Then it should be like this. So array index, there are 3 indexes there. So I need to mention all the indexes. Then what is my array element, I mean what is the value? So I need to use the 3 indexes. Let's see what will it looks like. Now you can see all the 48 elements are 48 printfs are printing here. So I have mentioned 0 0 0. So 0 0 0 is 52 and 0 1 2 is 87. Other things are zeros and there are random values. There are lots of random values. So there are 48 values, right? So some are representing the memory address, some are representing 0, likewise, right? So these are garbage values. Okay, now I think you all have an idea about how to create an array, how to assign values into an array, and how to access each and every element of these array from these arrays, and how to use for loops to access each and every element of these arrays, right? So I hope you all learn about arrays, and I have explained you each and everything about arrays. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and if you like, comment, and if you want to know when we add new videos, subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you all for watching.